40 for Rateable Crest Titans.
Last time out at the opening round of the all-wheel drive Safari Championship in association with Pioneer and Whitchurch MOT Centre, we saw a fantastic entry take to the start line at Walters Arena. That event will be dominated by Chris Bird, who took a convincing win on home soil. But in terms of the championship, it would be maximum points for Andy DiGiulio and Rebecca Clarkson, who battled through a puncture and a tripped kill switch to take second place and highest placed championship registered Crewe, ahead of Aston Cox and Richard Rawlinson, who finished just behind in the points. The championship battle already set up nicely then. Round 2 of the championship heads north, all the way north in fact, to the Northern Off-Road Club run event at Pickering, a 2-day event with a fantastic entry ready to compete in and around the old quarry venue, including no less than 7 cars from Lofthouse Motorsport, which ties in well to them being the sponsor of round 2 of the championship along with ORT tyres. And let's head straight out to the action. Normally we'd leave you with a cliffhanger, but this time we're starting with one. Anthony Jackson and Rita Tamolina only getting halfway around the course before an accident saw them hanging close to the edge of a big drop. Thankfully, the rescue went to plan without any injury or major damage to talk of, and they were actually able to continue with later runs after some quick repairs on the car. Probably a change of underwear as well. Based on the times, without that maximum, they'd have been close to the top of our leaderboard. But for now, after all of that early drama, it was 30th overall. So with that dramatic start out of the way, it would be the lead in the event for Justin Birchall. Going well, less drama and a good advantage in that position as well. A fairly straightforward run, in fact, through the day. With this much of an advantage at the end of this opening day of competition, who knows what could happen on day 2, but for now, this was exactly what he would have wanted. There's early frustration though for our maximum point scorers from the opening round, Andy DiGiulio and Rebecca Clarkson. It wasn't going to be a repeat of the success this weekend, that is for sure. They've been going well, even setting the fastest time of the day so far on run 4. But that good run of luck would come to an end on run 5, the gearbox deciding it had had enough. It gives up, putting an end to their hopes of any points here at the second round. The pace had been good while it was going though, and Andy, who took over as official dealer for the Milner R5 recently, was showing that the Milner was still a highly competitive option in this championship. There'd be further bad news for those who were looking forward to a good battle from our top runners here at round 2, and also this man Aston Cox, Richard Rawlinson alongside another pair looking for a repeat of their points from round 1, but it wasn't to be. They land heavily over a jump, breaking the suspension and resulting in a maximum that will put them right down the order. They did everything they could in service to get the car out in time for the final run of the day. Unfortunately though for them, that last run would prove to be the last of their event too, Gearbox Gremlins, meaning that they don't continue into the second day. And now we're left with a rush to get the car fixed in time for an event in France in a few weeks' time.
Everything's gone absolutely fine, going really, really well actually, nice course. Nice stage, and then coming to the last bowl, it just, something went bang, and unfortunately it's a shaft from gearbox to rear diff. It snapped, so whether it's dodgy, cheap steel or something's not quite right, or the machine hasn't been done right, because it's not that old of a shaft, so but not ideal. Bit of a poor end to the weekend, but never mind. Fingers crossed we'll get it all fixed again for next time in Soissons, and we've got 4 weeks to get it fixed. So yeah.
After a non-finish last time out, however, Rob Ball and Peter King will be fired up for a good result here in Yorkshire, and things couldn't have got off to a much better start, despite all of that attrition around them at the top of the leaderboard, the pair ending the day in second place overall. Of course, there had been those issues ahead of them to help with that positioning on the leaderboard for now, but there were a lot more fast drivers behind them by the end of the day as well. Mark Hones makes a good start to the weekend as well, lying in third place at the end of our opening day. The pace was good and he looked fast out on the course. This weekend would be the first points on the board as well, so a finish was important for the championship. Things had been going well for Paul Rowlands. Sadly though, that wouldn't last the full day. A trip into the scenery would cause some significant damage to one of the loft house cars. Too much to repair on site in fact, and it would be game over for this round. Douglas Devenold Bat only managed one run at the opening round, so this weekend was going at least 6 times better than that. He completes the opening day. The times also looking good as well, leading the way in Class 5 from 4th place overall. We're on to Class 10 now, and it would be the lead there for Scott Whitmore, although he was the only one in the class for now. This weekend would see the crews racing with the Northern Off-Road Club, who use a different class system, and as far as that one went, he would be 3rd in the class. But either way, he'd be enjoying the fight in any class, or, for that matter, from 5th place overall. The course here hadn't stopped claiming its victims on the opening day though. Simon Adams, another to fall foul of the jump in the quarry. Things have been going well and the times improving as he climbed up the leaderboard, but an issue with the drivetrain would put an end to the event on the final run of the day, as Simon explained.
There was a bit of a bang and a clatter, and it looks like we've lost either the teeth off the it's like a drop box, or some of the splines off one of the drive shafts, but that was us out for the day. Bit of a shame, going well.
With DiGiulio gone then from the top of Class 9, it would be Mark Jacks who takes the lead there now, ending the day 6th place overall as well, the times gradually coming down as the day went on. Bad luck on the opening round had put Richard Kershaw out of the finishes. With the car still in development, there were some problems being found that, well, needed addressing, and this weekend will be no different. Thankfully though, they were all issues that could be resolved without losing too much time and without a workshop. The main one being a problem with the water pump, but a rewire of that would solve the issue at least for this weekend, allowing a fight back on the leaderboard after some lost time on the first run of the day. For now, it will be 7th overall. Meanwhile, there seemed to be a bit of a change around in luck at this round, with a lot of those who finished well on the opener having their issues this weekend. And for those like Rod Parker who didn't finish at Walters, it would be a much better start to round 2. He ends the opening day here in Pickering in 8th. For Johnny Drysdale, it would be 9th overall. Not part of the AWDC Championship, but with this weekend being hosted by the Northern Off-Road Club, we're still going to mention some of those crews in the top of the overall and class leaderboards. Another of those crews, and rounding out the top 10 overall, will be Ashley and Paul Short. They should have been a lot higher, but 2 minutes lost on the final run of the day would drop them down the leaderboard into that position. Phil Bayless and Lance Murphin had been in the fight for a couple of runs. Sadly, that would come to an end on run 3. They break the prop shaft. Phil's dad would travel back to Lincoln to get a new one and get them back out after a big effort to get it fixed. But they were now just out for the enjoyment and out of contention in 42nd place. Jason Rowlands made a slightly slower start than we're used to, but he did have a new car to try and get to grips with. Out in the loft house Freelander, and no doubt trying to work out how hard it could be pushed. The times had improved by around a minute per run by the middle of the day, and he ends day 1 with 2nd in Class 9 as well as 12th place overall. Steve Hill hadn't intended on racing for the full weekend. He was on holiday prior to this event, but actually made the 1,000-mile trip back from the Alps in one go and made it back on time to jump into the car and get going. Helped a little by the delay while rescuing Anthony Jackson, of course. He would hit a big rock on run 3 though that would break the steering, but he'd get that sorted and get back out there with minimal time lost. It wasn't a wasted trip after all. And just behind on the overall leaderboard at this stage will be Guy Smith, second in Class 5 at this stage as well, and another looking to put some more points on the board after a terrible start at the opening round. In the Northern Off-Road classes, it would be the lead in Class H for Paul Middlemiss, ending the day 15th overall, as well with some consistent times throughout the day. And things were going pretty well for Toby Jefferson, it had to be said. Bit of a scare before the event would see a small fire in the engine bay while trying to get the car ready. Thankfully put out with a new fire stick. They're well worth their money, and he'll be saying that for days and weeks to come, no doubt. Jefferson cycling the course twice as he had a new navigator for the weekend, ending the day with a happy and probably relieved, given all that drama, 16th place overall. For Steve Smith, it will be third in Class 9, not managing to bring the times down too much over the opening day despite a valiant effort, but the course was also starting to cut up. He ends a pretty bumpy day in 21st overall. In the lead of Class G in the Northern Off-Road Club Cruise, it will be Jim Canterbury. He'd be putting in some good times and seemed to be enjoying the course this weekend in 22nd overall. And John Rennie would be taking the lead in Class D at this stage. He would lose around a minute on the final run of the day, but that class lead just safe by around 12 seconds. James and Philippa Tennant will be sharing the driving as usual. James taking the first half of the day, and things were going well for his stint up to run 5 when the drive shaft pulled out, leaving them with just 3-wheel drive. They lose a little time as to be expected, but thankfully they had a spare in service to fix the car and keep things going. They still end today third in Class 5, 28th on the leaderboard. And this weekend will be the first round of the championship this season for Alex Freeman, going well with the lead in Class 7 from 29th overall. Just the one crew to keep us entertained in Class A. Therefore, it would be the lead for James Lyle, 37th place overall. But as we've seen, this course is tricky. And attrition is also a big factor today. Just getting to the finish will be a big effort. Ed Smith and Phil Moffat had taken 10 years to get here. Not to Pickering, of course, just to build the car and get ready for competing. That car having been rebuilt from scratch and now fitted with a Honda S2000 engine and Jaguar supercharger, all going through an axle from an old Renault van. We're sure they have their reasons for that. His method and the madness and all that. Things were going well for the pair though, despite that strange spec and a few small issues, including the brakes sticking on. But they get things fixed and complete the day in one piece. For Margaret Bakewell, things were going well, ending the day with second in Class 7 from 54th overall. The times improving as the day went on as well. There'd be bad news though for Rodney Burrows and James Reynolds. They'd retired from the opening round with a suspected head gasket failure, which later turned out to be a melted piston. So for this weekend, they would have fitted a last-minute engine replacement. Unfortunately for them, that engine would also suffer with an actual head gasket failure, putting them out of the event on run 3. And we might tell you what the actual reason for retirement was for the next round, who knows. So with the opening day complete and a bit of an attrition-filled day in the end, here's a look at how the top of the leaderboard is fitting out here at the second round of the all-wheel drive Safari Championship in association with Pioneer and Whitchurch MOT Centre. Let's head back onto that now pretty rough course and onto the afternoon runs and a look at those that finished, including how they scored in the championship points. And for Margaret Bakewell, it will be 44th place overall this weekend. Those points actually putting her 4th in the overall standings after 2 rounds. Robert Christmas and Sam Snowden will be happy to finish the event after problems last year. They'd get stuck on the first run of the day though, themselves getting a maximum, but from then on it was plain sailing. No change to those results from day one for Edward Barnes, the only one in Class 6. He, of course, takes the finish and with it the points and ends the event 42nd overall. In Class 7, it will be victory for Alex Freeman. Unfortunately for him, not completing the final 2 runs of the event, but still qualifying for a result down in 37th overall. And for James Lyle, it will be the Class A victory in the Northern Off-Road Cruise. 1 maximum on the second day would be the only thing affecting those times. Ed Smith and Phil Moffat would be happy with their finish this weekend. It wasn't without its dramas though, a stone somehow knocking the valve out of the wheel and causing a puncture. They'd have a few things to sort out for next time, but this weekend it would be job done, and I'm not sure how you guard against a valve getting knocked out by a stone. They'd be pleased though that they got around all weekend without getting stuck, despite being the only 2-wheel drive car here. Cameron Crowe and Pauline Stevenson made their first trip down from Scotland to compete on this weekend's event. And it would be a challenging one for them. The shocks on the car were leaking throughout the weekend, making for a bit of a rough ride. Aside from that, and a few bent wheels, they would have a good weekend, ending the event with 32nd on the leaderboard. And we're not done with the drama just yet. We've got a bit more to get through on day 2 for James and Philippa Tennant. The first run of the day would see them crack their trailing arm. Luckily, they borrowed one from a fellow competitor, getting the car fixed and back out. They would have a close call though, clipping a rock close to the finish of the final run and bending the wishbone. Thankfully, close enough to the end of the final run, or it could have been game over. They end the event 3rd in Class 5, putting themselves 3rd in the overall point standings after 2 rounds. Ben Cundy and Simon Root will be sharing the driving this weekend. It was Ben's first time out driving on an event, and things were going well on the whole. A broken belt on run 10 would cost them a maximum, but apart from that, it had gone to plan for the pair, who managed a 3rd in Class B finish from 25th overall. And all in all, it had been a good weekend for James and Michael Pate. This would be only the 2nd time the pair had sat together. They end the event 2nd place in the class, 23rd overall. James Bolland takes home the Class D victory. A strong result, happy to take that class win after the loss of John Rennie from that battle. And in Class G, it would be victory for Will Macquarie and Paul Finney. It had been a tough weekend though, a puncture early on and then snapped steering on the last corner of run 5, causing them to have to reverse over the finish line. As well as those issues, the power steering cooler would burst, giving them plenty to keep them busy over the weekend on their way to that class victory and 19th place overall. Toby Jefferson, meanwhile, enjoyed cycling the course so much that he decided to do it again on Sunday night, checking for new lines and any exposed rocks as the course had changed throughout the course of day 1. And apart from a few minor issues over the weekend, things had gone very much to plan. The cycling was obviously worth the effort. 16th place overall to show for it. Class H in the Northern Off-Road Cruise would go to Paul Middlemess, taking victory at the end of the event and with a strong margin in that place too. Richard Cooper and Adam Turner had put a standard engine in their car for this weekend after theirs wasn't ready in time from its recent rebuild. The car ran well all weekend though, and with only a wheel bearing to change at the end of day 1. They reached the end of the event with 13th overall, 5th in the class, and wondering perhaps if they should change that engine at all. And Guy Smith finally gets some points on the championship boards, ending this weekend with 12th overall, 2nd in the class. But as far as the AWDC finishers were concerned, it would be 8th overall. Mark Hones would have some bad luck, dropping from that potential podium finish to 17th place. A section of the course was getting particularly cut up now, and he'd be one of a few unlucky crews to get stuck in it. This would result in the course being shortened for the final 4 runs of the event, to avoid having to rescue anybody else. There was worse news to come though for Scott Whitmore, the engine on the car giving up in quite spectacular fashion in the middle of day 2. and it was clear from the noise and the amount of smoke that he wouldn't be going any further. Despite coming here to Yorkshire not intending to compete on the full event, it would be a great 10th place finish for Steve Hill. He didn't have a navigator though who could do the full weekend either, so the other seat was a bit like musical chairs. It seemed to work though, and the great result to end would have been a pretty tiring weekend. For Douglas Devon Bat, it would be the Class 5 victory this weekend. A strong end to the event and making up for that non-finish at the opening round. We've seen in the past that the pace can be up there, and he showed that this weekend. Rod Parker would be another one happy to be adding some strong points to the board this weekend, taking the Class 8 victory due to the podium positions not taking class wins. A great end to the event with 8th overall as well and 6th in the AWDC standings after round 2. Willie Stubbs, meanwhile, will be one of a couple of Northern Off-Road crews in the top of our results. He takes 7th place overall this weekend after climbing a few positions on day 2. And as you can see, Jason Rowlands was certainly getting used to the car now. The times were good. He ends the weekend 6th overall and upholding the Rowlands family honours after Dad Paul didn't make it out of day 1. Mark Jacques keeping himself out of trouble and reaching the end of this round with 5th overall. A good result that would see him with the highest points tally after 2 rounds this season and leading the championship at this stage. With no more time lost on the course, it will be a good climb back up the results for Ashley and Paul Short, who end the event just outside our podium positions in 4th. A good end to the event. It could have been a little different if it wasn't for those few minutes lost on day 1. And speaking of lost positions, unfortunately, it will be a drop down to 3rd for Rob Bull and Peter King, robbing us of that fight at the top. A silly mistake on the penultimate run would cost them enough time to drop from 2nd into 3rd. It was, of course, still a strong finish and some much needed points to kickstart their season, but annoying for the pair who were thinking what could have been, no doubt. So that means it will be Richard Kershaw taking advantage of that momentary lapse in concentration from Bull to end the event in 2nd. A good finish, showing that the car has the potential to be a winner once the little issues are all ironed out. And it's certainly an improvement over round 1. But taking the win this weekend will be Justin Birchall. A convincing victory by the end of the weekend and adding enough points to their total tally for the season to put them in 2nd behind Jacques in the standings. This weekend's result also significant as the top 3 places were filled with Lofthouse Motorsport cars. And with them sponsoring this 2nd round of the series, they couldn't have asked for a better showing. And we caught up with Dan Lofthouse at the finish to get his reaction on those results.
It's a first for us. We got 1, 2, 3. I think Justin's won, Richard 2nd, and Rob Bull 3rd. So we can't complain at that. We've had a great weekend. It's been quite tough. The conditions have been good, but the service conditions, hot, cold, wind, wet. But yeah, it's been a very interesting weekend. We thought we'd put a bit back, and Lofthouse Motorsport sponsored some of it, and then our tyre company OR Tyres UK sponsored the all-wheel drive club side of it, and it's been good. It's been a very, very successful weekend for us.
So the 2nd round of the championship added just as much drama to the narrative of this 2022 season. It's over and done with here in Pickering. Before we chat to our podium finishers, here's a look at how those final results were decided.
We haven't had any issues at all. It's been brilliant. Haven't even had a puncher, nothing missing. Well, sorry, tell a lie, this morning. She was ticking over, warming up, jumped into set off, car died. It was the throttle sensor that's played up, but that's the only issue we've had, so it's been relatively trouble-free, so it's been brilliant.
Yeah, we've had a good weekend all in all. A few problems yesterday with water pump and things, but got over them, and the lads fixing have worked miracles this weekend, because we have had quite a few issues, but yeah, eventually got 2nd overall, so yeah, really well. We'll pleased with the car and very happy to have a good result.
Yeah, the car performed faultlessly, really. Yeah, couldn't fault it. No issues all weekend. One puncher. Yeah, very good. Yeah, good strong car and good finish.
Care 40 for Rateable Crest Titans.